Tony, good afternoon, or maybe good morning still in the UK. I'm delighted to have you with me in my Zoom studio. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me on. It's good to see you again.
Excellent. I think us ex-Africans need to clump together and support each other.
Absolutely. Exactly. Exactly right.
Tony, please tell us what you do, what your company's called, and everything about your business.
Okay, so after a 35-year corporate career, I launched Cosmos Currency Exchange in July 2020. We provide international payment solutions for clients,
Okay.
and our job, quite simply, is to try and smooth the many bumps on the road that clients often experience in moving funds, which should be a very simple thing from one bank account to another bank account involving currency exchange.
Mm-hmm.
But like the old saying, the devil's in the detail, and there are lots of details of these things these days with compliance and licensing and everything else. So we try and use our experience gained over many years to try and make that journey as smooth as possible for our clients.
I understand that, and I'm going to ask you a question that you weren't expecting. Where did the name Cosmos Currency Exchange come from?
Aha. Well, as you know, Terry, I was born in what was then Lorenzo Marques, Mozambique, now Maputo, and most of my childhood holidays were either on the Mozambique coast
Oh,
or we would go across to Kruger. And of course, most people go to Kruger for safari and see the animals around the watering hole at dusk and dawn. I've always been a curious personality, I think is the polite way of putting it. And so my parents always tell the story that to stop me running off into the bush because I thought I heard something in the middle of the night. Of course, you had that African night, that
yes.
darkness, with no
Yeah,
light pollution. They
absolutely.
will put a couple of blankets on top of the bonnet or the roof of their Volkswagen Beetle car. And my godfather, who was very knowledgeable about these things, would sit up there with me for hours, with both of us lying on our back, pointing out all the constellations and the
Brilliant.
planets and the asteroid belt and what have you. And so I've had a lifelong interest in all things to do with space and astronomy and cosmology ever since.
Oh, great, great name. Tony, what motivates you to do this very complicated currency exchange document heavy job?
Um, I think I was lucky that I started my career in 1985. And the reason why I now think that that was lucky is because it means that for the first 10, 15 years of my career, it was pre-internet and very largely pre-computers.
Mm-hmm.
That the only way business was done was by human beings talking to one another and solving issues. There were obviously paper forms to fill in, but it was that human contact. And in the last 20 years, certainly, that's gone completely out of the window. And there's been my whole industry has moved from relationships to transaction-based business models. It's gone from personal service to self-service,
Yep.
online-only answers. And one of the things that I picked up on in my career is that most clients' problems are not with the transaction. Because the world is not short of currency brokers. There's hundreds of banks and
Yep.
apps and
Yep.
brokers and all the rest of it. The difficulty most clients have is with the details. It's with the banking of the transaction quite often. How do I get the money across?
Yep.
Why is it difficult? Why is this? Why is that? And you can't ask these questions to an algorithm. I don't care how clever the algorithm is. You can't have a discussion with it. Not yet,
Exactly.
anyway. Maybe in years to come you can. But right now you can't. So our idea is to use the latest technology because that can save time and
For
money,
sure.
but always have that human contact, always have that personal service. Every client gets a free of charge discovery session. We then find out what they're looking at doing, the time frame they're looking at doing it in, their attitude to risk, all those fundamentals, so that we can then put together a bespoke solution that is individualized to that client, because every client is an individual, and therefore this one size fits all is nonsense. It doesn't work. It can't work by definition.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. My issues are very different from a multi-million-dollar national corporation who's moving money. So
Yeah,
it's definitely
exactly.
not the same solution for the both of us.
Exactly right.
And what's the future of Cosmos? Where are you going with this?
Yeah, to scale it up internationally. The truth is that the UK has the most competitive currency markets in the world.
Okay.
There's over 650 banks registered just in a square mile of the City of London,
Wow.
but the whole banking sector in the UK is only responsible for about 46% market share. Whereas in major economies like the United States, Canada, Australia, South Africa, the banks are still responsible for over 90%
That's
market share,
interesting. Yeah.
which means that there's less competition for clients, which unfortunately means less competition usually means higher costs for clients and less service.
Sure.
So our idea is to use the UK model and then certainly around the English speaking world,
Sure.
and to scale it up internationally, throughout the English speaking world.
Okay. That sounds very interesting. And so now let's move away from the banking world and from lying in the Kruger looking at the beautiful sky. And Tony, what do you do outside of all of this that makes your heart beat faster, that makes you excited, that you love doing?
Well, I'm still as keen on astronomy as ever, so I'm very lucky that I live in Cornwall in the extreme southwest of the
Oh,
UK.
beautiful.
And
Yeah.
even though I live in the middle of a city, I only have to travel half an hour, and I'm in official dark sky areas. So I still get my amateur, telescopes out. I'm a member of the Cornwall Astronomy Society.
Okay.
So try and keep my knowledge up that way. I'm endlessly fascinated by everything going on in the science world.
Sure.
I'm also an amateur beekeeper, of all things. My grandfather was a beekeeper,
Wow.
and taught me as a child. I've never actually practiced it in the UK because I've always been too busy work-wise, but I certainly helped out in Africa and helped out in Portugal with my family whose background is in farming. And so again, I can bore my wife and daughter to death about endless facts about the honeybee and all the rest of it.
I
So
might
my
have,
two principal passions.
I might have to change your name to Mr. Honey or Mr. Sweet. Tony, thank you so much. I enjoyed talking to you, and I think I'm going to probably see you on Thursday at a networking meeting, which I'm looking forward to as well. And thank you for taking the time.
Thank you very much for having me on, Terry. It's been a pleasure.